Okay, y'all come on in. We got Jim Hightower coming up here in just a moment. I'm Bill Oliver. I'm going to just do a song and a third, and we're bringing Jim in, so you guys come on in here. Woo! Beautiful April in Austin. We get a little rain and the berries are falling. Mockingbirds singing an April Fool's song. Ain't nothing that can't be resolved. Indian paintbrush waving the wind, while a hawk overhead does a dive and a spin. Helping old turtle across an old highway into the blue bonnets and safety again. April in Austin, the tower bells ring. The students are drifting across Barton Springs. It's a lazy old Easter of sunshine and showers, following ladybirds and native wildflowers. Beautiful sunset in the hill country. Follow a rainbow over enchanted rock. Take a long weekend from Thursday till Monday. Find the lost maples and go for a walk. April in Austin, the tower bells ring. The natives are restless to float Barton Springs. It's the last nip of winter, the warming is starting. Watching the nest of the first purple marks. Beautiful April in Austin. We get a little rain and the berries are falling. Mockingbirds singing an April Fool's song. Ain't nothing that can't be resolved. All right, you guys, come on. Mr. Hightower's coming in here. All right. Phase out, phase out, phase out, fade. Get the haze out, get the rays out, get the phase out and say it. Something is wrong with our energy. Let's phase out the fade with fuels that are clean and free. All right, Jim Hightower, ladies and gentlemen. Reed. Yep, that's it. Reed, come on. Thank you, Reed.
I heard song and a half, but that half went so quick. I heard song and a blip. But anyway, thank you, Bill Oliver, Mr. Habitat. Thank you once again to all of our partners and sponsors that have helped make this happen. I'd like to do another thanks to the East Side Compost Peddlers, bicycle-powered composting today. Pretty impressive. And also to Texas Disposal Systems, who are picking up the rest of the load on making this a zero-waste event. I would like to introduce a guy that I am such a huge fan of now, a rebel with a cause, Mr. Jim Hightower. Oh, podium.
This'll do.
I can get this.
It's better, yeah. This'll work fine. Howdy ho, thank you so much. Thanks to Ken McKenzie and Reed Sternberg, Bill Oliver. He's the greenest guy in Austin, Texas. Christy Pipkin, it's just a joy to be here with so many good folks, and thanks to the Texas Green Network for pulling us all together. It just makes me happier than a mosquito at a nudist colony to be standing up here looking out at all of you good free thinkers and truth seekers, you fracking frackers and greed whackers, you ostentatious earthlings, here as we gather under this populous pavilion to celebrate, cogitate, and prepare for a greener future. So really, I've come over here today to thank you, to thank all the good folks who are participating in this, and especially all the volunteers who made this thing possible. To thank you for standing up and speaking out. This is what it takes to have an environmental movement and to make it work for everyone, and particularly for Earth. So thank you for your ideas, your idealism, and for having the guts and gumption to speak out on behalf of old Mama Earth here. And let me add, thank you also for having a spirit of fun when you do this. I've always felt that battling the bastards is just about as much fun as you can have with your clothes on, at least. So enjoy that and do more of it. I come to you from over in South Austin, where I live, and we got a little different attitude over there, as any of you Southies know. And our slogan on the South Side is we're all here because we're not all there. And I think we're all here today because the forces of ignorance, arrogance, and avarice on Wall Street, in Washington, in the corporate suites are not all there at all in terms of the essential unifying concept that we're all in this together. And in fact, that's the truth of it, whether they want to acknowledge it or not. All of us, no matter what our zip code, no matter what our GPS, no matter what our net worth, we're clinging to the crust of this little fiery ball as it spins around the sun, and the sun spins around the galaxy, and the galaxy hurtles off at 600,000 miles an hour into the abyss. So we might want to be taking care of what little turf we have, yet the few have chosen to believe that they're the top dogs and our good Earth is their own fire hydrant. I'm talking about the Exxoners and BPers, the coke-headed Congress and the bone-headed legislature, the Monsantos and GMOers, the big oil frackers and Tyson K4s, Trans-Canada pipeliners, the climate change deniers and mountaintop decapitators. In other words, the big shots, bastards, and bullshitters who feel free to run roughshod over us. We live in strange times, do we not? Bill Moyer said it well. He said, the delusional is no longer marginal. It has come in from the fringe to sit at the seat of power. The one percenters, or more accurately, the 1/10 of 1%ers, are throwing a plunderpalooza for themselves. And our so-called political leaders, from the State House to the Supreme Court, are not only going along with it, they are their happy henchmen. Of course, our problem there, I think, is we've got too many 5-watt bulbs sitting in 100-watt sockets, if you know what I mean. And how about this for strange? I don't know if you saw, I've been watching this NOVA program on Wednesday nights. That's the PBS science program. And it says in the non-advertising that PBS does, it says, brought to you by the David H. Koch Fund for Science. I mean, that's a little gobsmacking, isn't it? I mean, the Kochs have spent tens of millions of dollars to deny that there even is climate change, and here's the Koch name and the Koch money attaching itself to the PBS premier science show. Now, in a rational world, that would be nuts. But I think of Butch Hancock, you know, the great singer-songwriter based here in Austin now. It comes out of Lubbock with Jimmy Dale Gilmore and Joe Ely and them, the Flatlanders. And Butch once was on a radio show that Susan DeMarco and I had, and he explained to us how difficult it was, how confusing it was to grow up out in Lubbock as a teenage boy with all the hormones raging. And he said that in that evangelical Church of Christ world out there, that they would insist that sex was the filthiest, nastiest thing that there was on earth, and you should save it for someone you love. Now, I think that explains a whole lot about Lubbock, but not sure what it has to do with us here today. But nonetheless, what I really come to say to you today is that despite their deliberate deceptions, despite their bottomless pits of money, we're winning. We, the people who are fighting for this good earth, are winning more than we are losing. Now, how can that be? Because of you. They got the fat cats, but we got the alley cats. There's so many more of us. And you're out there winning friends and winning fights. The greatest thing about America is Americans. Ordinary folks who don't swallow the corporate line, who learn to read between the lies, who defy the corporate order. I grew up in the little town of Denison, Texas, north of Dallas, and I learned early on as a boy in a small town, about fighting. And I learned this valuable lesson: you should never hit a man with glasses. You should use something much heavier. And the heaviest tool that we have for striking back at the spewers and the spoilers is that indomitable human spirit that, when pushed, turns feisty and turns into organized resistance. I can even put a name to it today, to this spirit. Nancy Zorn is her name. She's a 79-year-old grandmother out of War Acres, Oklahoma, near Oklahoma City. TransCanada Corporation picked Oklahoma, that dark red state, to start building its Keystone XL pipeline. They've got these massive earth movers called excavators. But 2 weeks ago, Grandmother Zorn literally put her neck on the line. She took one of those U-shaped bicycle locks and put it around her neck and attached it to that excavator and stopped it right in its tracks. She said, "I can no longer sit by idly. It's time to rise up and defend our home. It's my hope that this one small action today will inspire many to protect this land and our water." Well, go to GreatPlainsTarSandsResistance.org, that's gptarsandsresistance.org, and follow this group, because it's not just Oklahoma, it's Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, the whole plains area fighting that tar sands pipeline coming down from Alberta all the way to the Gulf Coast, where it will be exported, by the way. The oil that's made will be exported to China and to Europe and to Brazil. It's not going to do anything for the oil supply in this country. And see the pictures of Nancy Zorn there. Well, she's right, because the many are inspired and they're on the move, including right here in the Lone Star State. You know, they say that even the smallest dog can lift his leg on the tallest building. And we've got a lot of leg lifting happening here in Texas. The Christmas Mountains down in the Big Bend. Our land commissioner, Patterson, tried to privatize those mountains. And then his other choice was to give it to the federal government. Of course, he hates the federal government because they wouldn't allow hunting on it. And so he's finally given it, thanks to the pressure of environmentalists in this state, to Texas State University, where that mountain chain will now be kept open to all the people of our state and beyond. Texas, oil-soaked Texas, is #1 in the United States in wind power production, led by San Antonio and Austin. There are fracking fights all over this state. That you watchdogs have busted that corrupted report by the UT's Energy Institute over there that tried to whitewash fracking. And you even got the legislature to pass a bill requiring the big oil corporation doing the fracking to have to reveal the chemicals that they're using to put in that stuff. Or you can go up to northeast Texas, near Tyler, a little town of Direct, Texas, and right outside that is the Red Arc Farm, where Julia Crawford is driving the honchos and the lawyers of TransCanada Corporation crazy. Of course, that's a pretty short ride for a lot of them. Julia is a third-generation farmer up there, and she and her family rejected TransCanada's demand that they sell a piece of their farm to TransCanada for the pipeline to go through. And she just said no, and so TransCanada used a rule under the Texas Railroad Commission that allows them to condemn the land and use eminent domain as a private foreign corporation to take over the piece of land that they wanted up there. Well, public citizen here in our state joined with Julia, and they filed suit, and we're on the move. It's now at the appeals court level, at the National Appeals Court level. Julia this week testified before the Judiciary Committee in the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. She's not quitting at all. She is still battling. I think, Willie Nelson told me once that the early bird might get the worm, but it's the second mouse that gets the cheese. You got to keep fighting in these things. You don't win the first time out. And by the way, you can go to Red Arc, A-R-C, redarcfarm@gmail.com and follow Julia's fight and get involved in Julia's fight with her, because it's not her fight, it's our fight. Well, from Austin's infamous plastic bag ban that caused all the fainting spells among the right wing to the whooping cranes down near the Gulf Coast, the environment, its critters, the common good are coming out ahead these days. And here's a total surprise for you. I'll just ask you this. Of all the places here in the United States, what place do you think would be the national leader in achieving the ideal of what's called net zero? Net zero means total conversion to renewable energy in a community. It means zero waste deposits through total recycling, and it means a public embrace of the culture of conservation. Texas, not Austin, not San Antonio. Guess where? Fort Bliss, out in El Paso, an Army base that is home to 35,000 soldiers. An astonishing thing is happening out there on that base. They already have rooftop solar panels on all of the base housing. Again, 35,000 soldiers, generating 13.4 megawatts of energy. They're building a 200-acre, 20-watt megawatt solar farm that'll be up and running by 2015. They're converting all of the post-waste into energy. They have wind, geothermal, and conservation projects underway. They're using energy-efficient vehicles, even building bicycle lanes on an Army base. The troops have planted 15,000 trees, and they have become converts to recycling, in part because they're making $1 million a year selling the products of the recycling, and they're putting all that back into skating parks and exercise facilities and other morale-boosting projects for the soldiers themselves. And they've developed that conservation culture. As the commanding officer there says, our soldiers will take this with them when they go on. I never thought I'd hear myself saying this, but we should all join the Army, I think, in this fight. Fort Bliss, who would have thought? So my message to you, and I'm sure you wonder what it is by now, is simply this. We're gaining on them. More and more people are coming around on things like coal-fired power plants that Bill Oliver just sang about, things like climate change, the tar sands hoax, the fracking wackiness, all the rest of it. It's dawning on the majority in this country today, and even here in Texas, that when it comes to our one and only earth, we cannot afford to be idiots. We just can't be idiots. Now, idiots means something different today than it did when the Greeks first coined the word. The word idiotes didn't mean you were stupid. It meant simply that you were a person who refused to participate in public affairs. You refused to care about the work of democracy or join in the fight for the common good. Rather, you were only concerned for yourself. And people like that were considered selfish, and they were contemptible, in fact. So they were called idiots. So we can no longer afford idiots in our country. We've all got to do our part in this great fight. Our challenge then, I think, is to ramp up our actions, to reach out to that majority that's coming in our direction, to rev up the grassroots movement that is building all across the country. I'll leave you with this thought. It comes from Louis Grizzard, the late, great Southern humorist, who said something, of course, we in Texas have known for a long time, and that is, there's a big difference between being naked and being naked. Being naked means you have no clothes on, but being naked, that means you have no clothes on and you are up to something. I think we've got to get naked together. Thank you very much for what you're doing. Proud to be with you. And thanks to Austin Earth Day for all the work that they've done.